All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back here to stage number one of SAE's Hydrogen and Alternative Fuel Summit 2024. It's great to be back here. We bring back one of our favorite presenters from last year. We'll get to Danielle in about 45 to 60 seconds. I just want to make a couple of quick additional remarks. First, one more time, I do want to thank all of our sponsors today. We have a big shout out to ComSol and Hariba, to EA Electro Automatic, to CS High, to PhotoFab, to AGC Chemicals America. Because of their generosity, because of their support, I know for a fact that you all paid exactly nothing to attend. You paid no euros, no dollars, no Canadian dollars, no yen, no Australian dollars, no drachma, if that's still actual currency being used.
Bitcoin.
So thank you. Bitcoin, you paid no Bitcoin, no crypto of any kind. It was free to all of you, no matter how we pay for our goods and services. So thank you to our sponsors. Please check them out. Please thank them for their support and their generosity. And they've got a lot to offer, and we've got some sessions coming up by them later today. So definitely pay attention to those. I do want to remind you that this session, as well as all others earlier today, all coming up later today and tomorrow, have been recorded / will be recorded. Those will live right over there on the left side navigation in the replay area. So you can view those. I've been posting them throughout the day as they come up. And again, if you have any questions or comments for Danielle for the next half hour, throw them in the chat area down here, and we'll get to those towards the end of our session. So Danielle, thanks so much for being back here today. The virtual floor is yours. I'll just be hanging out in the background if anything comes up. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for attending. This is going to be juicy. Some of it's going to be juicy. Some of it's going to be boring. But my name is Danielle McLean. I'm the founder and CEO of HYSKY Society. So why hydrogen? Why now? Let's get into it. This is our team. This is our core team. I'm the founder. Rishav is my partner in crime, and hopefully he's in attendance watching virtually as well. There are other people, but this is pretty much the core of the team. Shout out Angela and Dom if you're also watching. They're part of the team as well. So about HYSKY. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We launched in January of 2023. So happy birthday to us. We just turned 1 this January. And our mission is, it's simple. We're decarbonizing aviation with hydrogen. We're a spinoff of the Vertical Flight Society. I know probably many members are here from the Vertical Flight Society. They're formerly the American Helicopter Society, founded in 1943. There's a press release there. You can read about that. And yes, I'm totally fine with Matt. You can share these slides with anybody. I'll send them to you. That's fine. And I served as a hydrogen advisor at VFS and co-founded the H2E VTOL Council. And there's a press release on that before founding HYSKY. So why hydrogen? All right, this is where it gets juicy. So normally at this part of the presentation, I tell you about my experience at an aerospace supplier who was recently in the news that had a whistleblower that is no longer with us. So I'm not going to tell you about that experience, but what I am going to say is that I'm very, very happy. And I just moved to Houston, and I moved to Houston to be closer to my daughter and to my grandson and 2 more grandkids that will be here in about a month, twins. I'm very healthy. I exercise almost every day. I eat very healthy. I'm wearing a Fitbit, and my resting heart rate is about 55 BPM. For those of you that don't know why I said all of that, consider yourselves lucky. For those of you who do know why I said that, I just want to tell you sincerely from my heart, humor removed, you're not alone and you're not crazy. There are a lot of us. So why hydrogen? All right, let's get into it. Hydrogen's role in decarbonizing aviation. There are 0 carbon emissions in hydrogen. It's the only fuel that can decarbonize aviation. Batteries are too heavy, and SAFs are not carbon-free. No shade to anybody that talked about SAFs. They are part of the path, and we believe there's a role for hydrogen in SAFs and vice versa, but they're not carbon-free. There's a difference between carbon-free and carbon neutral. There's 2 different ways to use hydrogen. I didn't include this slide last year. I used to have this slide on a presentation I did about 5 years ago, but I'm still seeing this come up, so I thought it was necessary to include it. There are 2 ways to use hydrogen. You can burn it, internal combustion, just like we do in our cars with any other fossil fuel. If you burn hydrogen, there are no CO2 emissions because there's no carbon in hydrogen. It's hydrogen. You do have some NOx emissions, and it is not electric. Obviously, if you're burning something, it's not electric. Fuel cells, on the other hand, there are no emissions other than water. So no NOx, no CO2 emissions. The downside is that if you want to use green hydrogen, it can be expensive. And hydrogen fuel cells are electric. So what do I mean by hydrogen fuel cells are electric? Hydrogen fuel cells have been used in forklifts and other industries for a long time. And what that looks like is you have your hydrogen tank. I hope you guys can see my cursor. I have no way of knowing if you can. But anyway, I'm hovering over the hydrogen tank, the thing on the left that looks like a tank. And then those little arrows are pointing to a hydrogen fuel cell stack, as we like to call it in the industry. That stack operates very similar to a battery where it outputs electricity to power a motor. So that's what you see happening in this image. So it's electric. It functions very similar to a battery. The difference is, I don't know if you can see my cursor again, and you probably can't, but if you look at those arrows between the tank and the fuel cell, imagine I basically severed that connection and that energy would be stored inside of the battery. So the difference between a fuel cell and a battery, one of the main differences, the battery has the energy stored in its fuel cell stack. The battery has its energy stored in the battery, and the fuel cell has its energy stored in the hydrogen tank. Let me say that again. The battery has its energy stored in the battery pack, where the fuel cell stack has its energy stored in the hydrogen tank. Blah, blah, blah. I got it out.
All right, and Danielle, for future reference, we cannot see your cursor, so you're doing a great job of describing it vocally.
Okay, great. I went with the worst case scenario, so thank you for that, Matt. Okay, so here's an obvious example of hydrogen combustion. So we've used hydrogen combustion for decades in aerospace. So using hydrogen in aerospace and aviation is not a new concept. We've been doing it for a long time. It's rocket fuel. So we can definitely do that. So just to kind of reiterate that, internal combustion is when you burn the hydrogen. Fuel cells are when you put the hydrogen through a fuel cell stack and out comes electricity. So there are two ways you can use hydrogen. This is an example of electric, where the hydrogen is going to the fuel cell stack. Out comes electricity to power a motor. This is an example of hydrogen combustion, where you burn the hydrogen and you get a lot of power out of it. Okay, this is the most nerdiest part and this is the most of the weeds that we're going to get into in this presentation. This is also something that I hear keep coming up that I've been saying for 5 or 6 years that I'm going to harp on. Specific energy and energy density. Specific energy and energy density are two important but different properties used to describe the energy content of fuels and batteries. Specific energy, aka gravimetric density. This is where hydrogen is really ideal. It has very high specific energy compared to jet fuel. It describes the amount of energy stored per unit mass. The units are measured in watt hours per kilogram, which is the same as joules per kilogram. And this is important when weight of the energy storage system matters, such as in aviation. Higher specific energy means more energy for the same weight. Energy density, aka volumetric density, hydrogen is low compared to jet fuel in energy density. The amount of energy, and it describes the amount of energy stored per unit volume. It's the units measured in watt hours per liter or joules per liter. This is crucial when the size of the energy storage matters, such as in aviation. Higher energy density means more energy for the same volume. Okay, if you're a visual person, what that looks like is JP8, that's jet fuel. So I'll give you a minute because you can't see my cursor, but it's towards the top left. It is very high in volumetric density, which means you can store a lot in a small size. Hydrogen is low on that, which means you can't store a lot in a small size. However, hydrogen is very far to the right. Hydrogen's in the lower right corner. I've never had to do this before, by the way, without my cursor. So this is using a different part of my brain I'm not used to using. But hydrogen is to the right. So it's got high gravimetric density, but it's got low volumetric density. So it has 3 times more energy per kilogram than jet fuel, but it's harder to store that energy size-wise. What does it all mean? Hydrogen is an excellent fuel for aviation, but it takes more space to store it than jet fuel. Don't say hydrogen has high energy density. That is technically incorrect. Say that it has high energy per kilogram, high specific energy, high gravimetric density. But technically, it's incorrect to say it has high energy density. Sorry to harp on you all for that, but it's driving me crazy because we keep doing it. And we're trying to train young engineers, and they come to me and are all confused about this. And I hear all these industry experts saying it has high energy density. So let's try to keep that consistent and correct so we don't confuse the new engineers that want to work in the space. We need them. So far, I've just compared to jet fuel. I could do another dive into the weeds on power density, but I'm going to save that for the hydrogen aviation course that I'll talk about in a second. But if we compare it to batteries, and we're just talking about the specific energy in this case, if you wanted to go 300 miles powered with batteries, you're going to have to stop and charge at least 2 times if you're going with batteries. You could do that same flight with hydrogen, A to B, not recharging. So that kind of gives you a visual of why hydrogen is better than batteries. I've already told you why it's better than jet fuel, although there are some challenges. So speaking of that course that I just mentioned, totally a tangent, but we just announced, and you guys are the first to hear about this, by the way, we just partnered with AIAA. Woohoo to us. We're going to do a big press release, but we haven't done it yet because this literally just happened. But on October 8th, we're teaching the Advanced Hydrogen Aerospace Technologies and Design online short course. I highly encourage you to attend this course. We're going to demystify all of these things about hydrogen. And I know I'm dumping a lot of information on you today, but you'll understand that clearly with this course. So you won't have to digest so much information in such a short time. So I highly recommend it. It's a technical course. Probably, ideal for people that have an engineering background, because we're not going to spend a lot of time teaching, what a kilojoule, a joule or kilowatt hour is, and units and things like that. So you're probably going to need that background to do this. If you don't have that background, there's another course for you, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm assuming you do, though, if you're at this event. The moral of the story is hydrogen is the only way to do long-range, zero-emission flight. How you use that hydrogen, whether you combust it or put it in a fuel cell, it depends on what you're trying to do. The current state of hydrogen aviation, I know that all of these aircraft have flown with hydrogen except for one. That doesn't mean that they haven't. I just don't know about it yet. And I'm having to add people to this list all of the time. And these aren't counting hydrogen-powered drones. There are many hydrogen-powered drones that are coming online and that are flying with hydrogen as well. But these are passenger aircraft that have flown with hydrogen. Like I said, all of them but one have flown. I love AI. And I'm sorry to all of my fellow artists out there. I'm an artist as well, but I still appreciate AI art. And I asked Midjourney I described myself to Midjourney, and I asked it to make an image of me working with hydrogen. And this was the image it gave me. And I thought it was a perfect segue into this, to the elephant, the monster in the room of the Hindenburg. And I had to use my mouse, which is also awkward. Oh, the humanity. So 1937, this unfortunate event was caught on video, but hydrogen did not cause this to happen. This incident, the way they were storing the hydrogen, it was like stored in fabric that was soaked in flammable materials, rubber, aluminum, very poor planning, including the weather. There were so many people saying we shouldn't fly. They did a sharp turn. There was lightning involved. It was caught on video. Today, we have carbon fiber, fireproof materials, quick release. And this was like the shortest that I could make this, but there are so many reasons and evidence to show that hydrogen did not cause this explosion. In fact, we flew with hydrogen many times before this event and many times after. Like I said, it was caught on video, so it went viral. It was like the clickbait of its time. And there was also a significant amount of propaganda involved. I personally own 2 books that go into all of the evidence technically and what happened politically of why hydrogen kind of got the bad rap that it has. That I highly recommend you digging into. There's documentaries on YouTube, and I just learned that there's a new one that PBS is putting together on hydrogen and the Hindenburg. So if we talk about the safety of hydrogen, the auto ignition temperature of hydrogen is actually higher, which makes it more safe than gasoline, kerosene, and diesel. We're at 575 Fahrenheit. So what that means is, like, how likely is it to auto ignite? Kerosene, which is jet fuel, is 100 degrees, more than 100 degrees lower, which makes it more likely to auto ignite. So that property makes hydrogen safer. Dispersion. Hydrogen's 14 times lighter than air, which is why we saw it used in a dirigible in the Hindenburg. But this property makes it safer than other fuels because as soon as it leaks, it evaporates so quickly, it disperses. Where other fuels that are more dense, they're going to kind of collect and pool, which makes them more likely to go boom. I'm not going to say that hydrogen is safer than other fuels that we use in aviation. Some properties make it safer. If you compare all of the properties, they're about the same. All right. That's the overall takeaway, is that they're about the same. But it is time for our daily affirmation. So I want you all to say this with me. Hydrogen did not cause the Hindenburg to explode. Hydrogen did not cause the Hindenburg to explode.
Harry, go back. Let me join you just so you can have one voice sharing with you. Hydrogen did not cause the Hindenburg to explode. There you go.
I love it. Thanks, Matt. That was so fun. So why now? The rising cost of jet fuel is projected to double in the next 25 years, and this poses a significant risk to aviation industry's financial stability. So we look at, in 2024, it's about $2.50 per gallon. In 2050, $5 per gallon. That, as a passenger, that's going to make our tickets more than double. I don't like that. And I'm sure that aviation and airlines, they don't like that either. However, the cost of clean hydrogen, which, by the way, I've started calling it clean hydrogen and not green hydrogen. And if you want to know the difference between that, another reason to take our course. But the cost of hydrogen is expected to decline and reach $1 per kilogram. At least that's what the DOE's target is. That makes it a very cost-effective alternative to jet fuel. You'll see on this picture, I have $15 per kilogram for hydrogen. A lot of people ask me where I get that number. Where I get that number, I just look up, and I did this like 6 months ago or so, maybe longer, but I just Google, California has hydrogen powered cars. So I'll just Google how much does hydrogen cost at the pump if I want to refuel my Toyota Mirai, because they have hydrogen refueling stations. And I think today it's like 30 something dollars. So hydrogen is a commodity. It fluctuates greatly. But at the time that I made this slide, it was $15 per kilogram. It's higher than that. And that's not even talking about liquid hydrogen. But that just makes that arrow even sharper, that it's going to come down to $1 per kilogram. So yes, hydrogen is expensive, but it's coming down. It is coming down. But anyway, I'm telling you guys that if you want that number where I got that $15 per kilogram, just look up how much hydrogen costs in California at the pump. And that's what I do. That number does not represent today, though. 20% of global energy will be hydrogen by 2050. Just really think about that. 20% of the world's energy will come from hydrogen by 2050. And as countries work to diversify energy sources and lower emissions, hydrogen creates a massive opportunity of $2.5 trillion in revenue. By 2050, the source is in there. But just think about that. It's not a matter of if hydrogen, it's when hydrogen, and it's definitely now. And it's not even a question of if hydrogen for aviation. It's a question of when hydrogen for aviation. And I very much believe, and HYSKY, we all believe that SAF plays a role in that. So it's not also, SAF versus hydrogen. It's when hydrogen, it's SAF, then hydrogen. And I hope that's been the consistent message throughout this, or will continue to be the consistent message throughout this summit. So I mentioned earlier the DOE's target, the 111, or the hydrogen shot. And so what the hydrogen shot is it's the DOE's target to get to $1 per kilogram in a decade. And I think they made this 2 years ago. So 8 years, we should see this. And they're doing everything they can to make that happen. What that means for aviation, that means it creates an $85 billion market. HYSKY made this chart. If you're interested in how we got to these numbers, because it's a little bit higher than others, this is annual, by the way, annual market. Reach out and we can dive deeper into how we got these numbers. But I think it's more accurate than other numbers we've seen based on the cost of fuel. Yes, there are infrastructure costs, but assuming the infrastructure is in place, then this is what we can expect. So very exciting time to be alive. The US government, as I said, they're investing heavily into hydrogen, as they should be, because it's going to be we're going to see global energy shift to hydrogen. And so they've just allocated $8 billion to 7 hydrogen hubs. There was a large, I'm going to call it a competition. I don't know if they officially called it a competition, but it was a competition in my eyes. There were like 77-ish, don't quote me on that number, but in the 70s, different hubs around the US that competed for this $8 billion. 7 of them won. So each of these won about $1 billion each. And they're in negotiations right now. Hopefully we'll see, all of that come to fruition, but they're probably going to get it. And in March, HYSKY put together the world's first hydrogen hub summit, Meet the Winners. It was the first time that all of these 7 hubs, that we had leadership from each of these hubs together, and how much information they shared with us and how much they talked about aviation was very exciting. You can watch the rerun. I'm dating myself. You can watch a rerun for $30. I encourage you to. You'll learn a ton about hydrogen and where the United States stands for $30 by scanning that QR code. Another fun time with AI. So how do you get involved in all of this? I'm telling you guys a lot of information, and it's a lot to digest, but get your phones out because it's QR scanning time. HYSKY has free hydrogen aviation webinars on the 3rd Monday of every month, and I'm going to give you a QR code in a second. We also have the HYSKY Pod, which is a monthly podcast on YouTube, and we have Flying High. Save the date. It's September 4th through 5th in Las Vegas, which is where that other non-technical hydrogen aviation course will be. There will be some technical, but you don't need an engineering background to take that one. So if you're interested in getting into that space, okay, so this QR code is for our YouTube channel. And HYSKY Monthly is, like I said, it's free monthly hydrogen aviation webinars. These are just some of the webinars we have on YouTube. Go subscribe now. We have over 50 episodes now on YouTube. It's the largest collection of hydrogen aviation material in existence. And I think we'll be able to say that until the end of time because we keep adding more material. There's the link right there, the QR code. There's also to register. So that QR code was to watch past webinars. Let me just give you a second to scan it. Hopefully you already did. That's to subscribe to our YouTube and get our past webinars. This QR code is to register so you can attend them live. If you're interested in getting into this space, do not have imposter syndrome. I told you earlier that we've been using hydrogen for decades, but the unfortunate thing is we haven't innovated a ton. So if you're like, oh gosh, all of this sounds so confusing, it won't take you that long to catch up. If you remember in chemistry, hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table. It's the most simple because it's literally just hydrogen. And it doesn't take that long to get caught up. So I encourage you to watch some of those past webinars, and I encourage you to come. And if you're interested in getting in this space, attend these webinars live, because at the end we do a live Q&A. You can unmute your camera and your mic and you can talk directly to the speakers. And I always encourage newcomers, turn on your mic and your camera, introduce yourself, say what your company does, say what you're looking for, and have a good question prepared for the speaker. It's a wonderful community and a great way to get the initial, just get in the ecosystem and start talking to people. So come to that. Flying high. And I hope we have time for Q&A. I'm trying to hurry. Flying High is the world's largest hydrogen aviation event. It is September 3rd. It's September 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The 3rd is the hydrogen aviation course. That is an all-day course that you're definitely going to want to attend. And then there's the 2-day hydrogen aviation summit. There will be 3,750 attendees. I got in trouble for saying 4,000 the other day. So I have to say 3,750 attendees, networking and more. We're partnered with the Commercial UAV Expo and Diversified Communications. This is a really humongous opportunity, a really fun event. So scan, save the date. This is the prices to attend. $895 for the hydrogen aviation course. This is the not so technical course. We will get into some math, but I don't think you need to understand units as well. We're going to more talk about like finances and things like that and why hydrogen makes sense, why hydrogen right now, kind of proving out, showing you where I got that $85 billion number from. So $895 to come for that. If you're interested in getting into the hydrogen business, you definitely need to attend that. That course is going to teach you everything that you need to go to the next 2 days, the conference. So you're going to be able to really digest everything in those next 2 days. There's no charge for the conference for speakers. If you're interested in being a speaker, we're booking quickly. So reach out soon. And here's the important information. If you're interested in being a speaker, oops, I'm so sorry, Angela, I typoed your name, but Angela Thurman, Angela at HYSKY.net. If you're interested in exhibiting, Kat McDonald, K McDonald at divcom.com. If you're interested in sponsoring, which is a tax deductible donation, reach out to me, D at HY-SKY.net. Oh, the HYSKY podcast. We're the only hydrogen aviation podcast. We have interviews with Dr. Martine Rothblatt, John Piasecki, and more. Scan that QR code. If you've already scanned the YouTube QR code, I think it's that one. But that was a mind-blowing interview. We talked about living forever, eternal life. How did we go from hydrogen aviation to immortality? Go watch it. All right. Thank you to SAE. Attend HYSKY monthly. I'll see you in Vegas the 3rd through 5th in September. Register for Advanced Hydrogen Aerospace Technologies and Design, and the online short course starts in October. Okay. I think I have 2 minutes for questions. Thank you.
All right, that's all right. We can talk fast here. So first question for you, in terms of modeling and simulation, in your opinion, what is the advantage of hydrogen compared to kerosene?
In terms of modeling and simulation?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really hard question. If you're looking at modeling and simulation, I would say from my standpoint, I'm looking at emissions. So if you didn't care about emissions, then you would just use kerosene. I mean, it's easier. It's definitely easier to use kerosene. But if you are looking at your emissions, then you would want to use you would want to use hydrogen. And I'm not sure if I understand your question, but that's what I think you mean.
Yes, I think that's the right answer. And that is literally completely unplanned, a serendipitous, perfect segue to exit this session, go to the next one. So everyone, in 60 seconds over on stage number 2, our next session by Ruud Borger Kamsel is actually about modeling and simulation benefits of hydrogen technology. So we could not have set that up better ourselves. Pierre, thank you for accidentally planting the perfect segue question. All right, everyone. So you got all the links for Danielle's events and information there in the chat. So definitely feel free to check those out. Reminder that this session has been recorded. It'll be posted in the replay area in like 5 minutes, and then it will live there for about 12 months. So with that, Danielle, thank you so much for your time. We definitely appreciate it. It's great to have you back. Thanks for being such an excellent supporter of our initiatives here. And everyone, head on over to stage number 2, and we will learn a little bit about modeling and simulation benefits. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.